as a part of Active Self Protection, your YouTube channel, and folks, you can go find Active Self Protection, and I highly recommend that you subscribe and watch the videos that John puts out every day, because they are the best possible training that you could get on how to be prepared and know what to do in a crisis situation without actually being in a crisis situation yourself. And so John has reviewed thousands of violent encounters, actual robberies, attacks, things like that. And it just sort of breaks them down frame by frame and helps you understand what's actually happening, what people's responses are, and how you could be safe and keep from getting into that situation or get out of it if you do. So John, since you've reviewed so many of these, what are the biggest misconceptions that you think people have in terms of self-defense, personal safety, things like that?
Lucky Gunner is my recommended trusted provider of Freedom Seeds for range or defensive use. In stock, good prices, and rocket fast shipping are why I go back again and again. Because of new guidelines, I can't link their site or say it, but you're smart and you can find it with a simple Google search. Stick it to the man by paying them a visit today.
Most of us get most of our understanding of how violence happens from the movies and from television, right? Which, of course, television and movie is not built for reality. It's built for, the dramatic effect. It's built to show, the big crash, bang, boom, and everybody thinks that they're going to be John Wick, when in reality, I mean, the guns in John Wick very real. I know the prop master there from John Wick, and they're done really well. The rest of it, not so much. The actual fighting in those things, no, it's not how that's going to go. So I think that's where those myths, they just arise. And also, really, we've only had the ability to review video footage of real encounters since YouTube came along, really. I mean, is when that is. And that's only 2007. It's less, they say that. So it officially kind of started 20 years ago, I think today, in fact. But before that, it's, cops saying, well, no kidding, there I was, here's a real story. And remember this from being in the military, it's this tribal knowledge that gets passed on one generation to another. But the problem is that in 2 generations, those guys 2 generations ago were about 12 feet tall and bulletproof, and were real men doing real men things, rather than, I don't know a whole lot of the stories. My grandpa was a World War II guy, and was a real honest guy, but how few of those guys say, no, man, we were coming ashore on Peleliu and I thought I was going to pee my pants. I was so scared. I was hyperventilating and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was practically crying the whole time I was in the tank. Now, of course, not. Oh, they're steely men of resolve who knew what they had to do and they were ready to go. And, you're like, no, maybe we were a little more scared than that. We did it anyways, because you got to be brave, but, we were scared to death. And that's how my grandpa really talked about it, as a guy who was wounded on Peleliu. So, now we can look a little bit more and go, wait a minute, what really happened here? And also, human memory is a really interesting thing.
That's
So the
true.
way that we remember things happening, uh, we have these things that sometimes people are like, oh, that's not how it happened. You're lying. No, man. You ever have that with your wife? Where you remember it one way and she remembers it another, and you're like, well, wait a minute, that's not how it happened, dear. Well, my recollection of things is how I experienced them. Her recollection of things is how she experienced them, and neither of those are objective reality. They're our experience of how things went down. So putting all that together so that we can actually understand how these things really go is kind of the call of my vocational life, and I've been blessed to do it and enjoy doing it. We put out a new analysis literally every day of the year, so we're pretty glad to do them.
So do you think, how do you feel about, I've always tried to tell my sons that wherever you go, people should be a little bit safer because you're there. You should be willing to put in the work and the time and the resources to train and prepare to be able to make the world a better place wherever you
Yes.
go. That's what redemption is kind of all about, right? But in terms of self-defense, how does that look to you? Because, some people think I'm going to go buy myself a blaster and stick it in my wife's purse, and that'll do it.
Yeah, Jeff Cooper says that owning a gun makes somebody a self-defender like owning a guitar makes you a musician. And obviously those are very different things. And I believe that every person, as part of, for me, I always say, listen, I'm an ambassador for King Jesus, right? So wherever I
Hmm.
go, I bring him, and that should bring human flourishing, that should bring peace, that should bring goodness. And also from a self-defense perspective, when my skill set is very high, not just I have a gun on me, I almost always do. If I'm I live in Arizona, I carry a gun everywhere I go, whenever I'm legally able to. But that, not because I have a gun on me, but because my skill set is high. So therefore, what would be really risky behavior for some other people is not risky behavior for me, because I have safety margins built in because of my skill set, that I can
Hmm.
take risks. That, when I'm pumping gas at the gas pump and somebody says, "Hey sir, have you got $1?" I don't have to go, "Hey man, back up. Stay away from me." I can go, "All right, talk to me about what's going on. Hey man, do me a favor. That's close enough. It's me, not you. I'm sorry, but tell me your story. What's happening? Are you hungry? Let me take you inside and get you something to eat, or pull your car around. I'm happy to put some gas in it." And sometimes in the defensive space, people are like, "John, that's risky." And I always say, I don't tell other people to do that. Your risk tolerance may be different. Your skill set's different. I have friends who have like special needs kids with them usually, and they don't take social cues well, so they probably can't take risks like that. But I,
Hmm.
I can in my situation. And so because of that, I think a really high level of skill lets me say the world is safer because I'm here. And of course that can become arrogant in a hurry, and I think arrogance is the antithesis of who Jesus is. But
Okay.
was the place where Jesus was safer because he was there? Unequivocally, right? It was better
Hmm.
because he was there. And I always take that, like, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Chronicles of Narnia is some of my favorite books. And when they ask, is Aslan safe? And he says, safe? No, he's not safe, but he's good.
But he's good.
But he's
That's right.
good. And
Yeah.
that to me is okay. So that's when I think of Jesus. Is he safe? No, but he's good. And so when I show up somewhere, that's my goal. I'm good. I am here as a bearer of peace, and I come as an ambassador of the Prince of Peace. And if you're a person of peace, let's have peace and let's do some things. But if you're not a person of peace, understand I am here as an ambassador of the Prince of Peace, and we will have peace. And so
Hmm.
I think having a high skill set lets me do that, take risks, and love people lavishly in a way that if I'm just unable and incapable, I can't do.
Yeah, you're right. It actually enables you to love people better.